Welcome back to our Python basics. It's the continuation on the topic of expressions and operators. And this is simply our roadmap. I know we haven't made so much progress, but it takes time and learning is a process, and every step along the way we get to learn new things. But soon we'll be there. So this is just to remind you where we're starting. Currently we are on this section, simple expressions and operators, and then we'll move on to what are called chapters until the very last in the end. So this is what this series is about, and we using Python because of its simplicity and also its approach to learning, which simplify things because in most cases it uses your everyday English words or language, which is good, and it's less stress about syntaxes and specific words that are unique to a specific programming language, like your Java, C Sharp, and more. So that's what we're doing on Python, using Python. So without further ado, let's move on to our code. So like I said, last time we looked at previous expressions. That was your arithmetic expressions, your comparison expressions, and logical expression. But today, we're moving on to something new. That is your bitwise expression. And to be honest, this is probably one bitwise expression that I most likely never used, but it's there. I can't even think of a scenario where I had to use this. Probably I had, maybe I've been using it without knowing, because, well, first of all, it deal with like binaries and those kind of things. So at seldom I can count a number of cases where I use it. But for the sake of these presentation, like I said, I'm not. The whole purpose here is not to go in depth and tell you everything about Python, because that's not what I'm trying to achieve. It's just to raise some sort of awareness as to what's available there. What can I do if I haven't learned Python? If I'm hearing about Python the first time, those basic things, and then kind of create that desire to maybe want to go further. From versus an approach where we go in depth, we have all these syntaxes, that cool code. The course is not, these tutorials and this series is not about impressing anybody. It's more about, hey, look, here's Python, you want to learn, this is how simple it is. These are some of the stuff you need to know principle wise, and yeah, hopefully I'm achieving that goal. So this is one of those where I'm not going to try and get too in depth about it, but you can just remember that there is a bitwise expressions. There is, and these are some of the operators that you can use. In this case, I use the first one, and if I run the code, I get a 1. So now to get to this bottom, you're gonna have to figure it out. Obviously, it's not 1 as per se. It's gonna be this value there, as you can see, a 0001. But because my terminal is not displaying that, so that's why I'm getting just a number 1. But obviously, I should be seeing this 000 and a 1. So that's as far I'm gonna go in this. And let me know if you probably want something more details about this, some other use cases. Maybe we can do everything, kind of look together on the internet, cases where this has been used. I've Googled it, and I kind of saw where it's been used, and it kind of makes sense why I've almost never had a use case where I went in depth in using this. So yeah, and let's not spend more time on this. So I think by now you know what this is now, or have an idea of what it is. So now we're moving on to string expression. This one I can count, it's countless time I've used this in many cases without even thinking. So it's a combination of strings using concatenation operators. So in this case, we're using a plus sign, and remember when I think in our previous videos where um, we did an input, we're looking at inputs and the variables, and then we're adding uh, two inputs together, but we got a string of two numbers like 12 plus 5, but we got 12 1 2 5 instead of getting 12 plus 5, which is eventually be 17. So this is the best place to now highlight, why is it so? Because if you're adding two strings using an operator, which is also quite a cool thing to learn, because in our previous video we kind of highlighted this, but there is a use case for it here. Can you use a negative here? No. I would like to try that, but let's focus on the concatenation here. Greetings, hello, hello. So if you want to print this, let's print that hello world, and you decide maybe you want to add a single quote. Let's see. If you have a single quote, will you still get the same output? Yes, you will. It's just two strings. If you remove the space, what happened? Do you get the space removed? Yes, you do. So it just add space is counted as a string. Other numbers and everything can be. Can you, for example, add a variables or number inside? Yes, of course. You can just put it as a number, and what you get is exactly that. Obviously, you want to format it in a way that is very presentable, then that's what you get. So that's what's possible with the concatenation or adding two strings or word. There are use cases where, for example, you want to get an input from a user and get that input and add it to this. So there are other functions and other means. So what I would do is let me probably present that. Assuming that maybe you have this is from our previous videos as well. So we say the user. Oh, sorry. What? Wait. User, which is a variable, is equal to input. So we're gonna have an input, and we're gonna say enter your name. Enter your name, and then we're gonna put a space there. Let's put a space, and then we take the value of that, and we want it to be instead of saying world, we want the value of user to be here. So what I mean is, if I run this, what you're gonna see is Python enter your name. I see and I get hello user, but not the value of the variable. So how do we go about doing that? So quick way, just jumping. There's a way of doing this. So I'm going to use a quicker one. So it's just going to be a F. And inside that, sorry, I'm going to put an F here. That's a cool way of Python doing things. So we're going to do that. F here, change that to a single quote and put an F there as well. And instead of that, we're going to say semicolon and then say user. We actually don't need this. We can remove that. So if you run that again, we see we get hello. Yeah, exactly that. So that's one way of concatenating sorry, variables and strings together. So I know this is kind of like jumping a bit fast. What is a F now? What does it stand for? And so on and so forth. So that's a cool thing about it. So, but that was just for you to think about. Is it possible to do something like this? Yes, it is. What will be the output? You just had it now. And can you play around and test other stuff? Yes, of course you can. And the list goes on and on and on. So that's basically what you can do with at the basic level with string expressions. There are more complex scenarios where maybe you want to do some logics, you want to apply some custom things, but that comes with time. I mean, the the approach I would encourage someone to go about practicing this in more in depth is to kind of think of things you want to do. You know, um, let's say maybe you want to build a small game. You know, it gives you a challenge, and try when you implement a solution for the game that you want to build. Try and stick to this one language only, Python, and and solve every possible problem associated with the design of that game using Python only. And while doing that, think of the end and then build towards that end. And in the process, even if there is an easier way of doing something, copying a code or something, rather go this long route, typing things and inserting things and running them so that you get a chance to practice sections like this. So that's the way I would say. But once you've mastered it, once you've gone past the level where you understand why something is done a certain way, then it's easier to then maybe use reusable code or generated code using AI and all of this, because you're not just relying on outputs, but you have understanding of principles behind as to this is how this is done and why it's done that way. That's the whole idea. So yes, that's the basic on string and expressions. Now we're looking at your conditional expressions. So I'm going to comment that out. And remember, once again, anything that has a hashtag in front, Python ignore that. And it just say, well, this is comments. I'm not going to process this. And it carries on. So, and there are two ways you can either put it on the first, on the beginning of a line, or you can run your code and then just add a hashtag, and whatever follows on the right hand side of the hashtag is considered comment or text, not processable. So now we have our conditional expression. Select one or two expressions based on the condition. So this one is usually conditional, and it's basically works in a way that only do this if this is true, or else do that. So the expression we have here in plain English will be, you start from begin. If 5 is greater than 2, then assign the value of 10 to result. Else, assign the value of 0 to result. It's kind of like a one-liner thing. So, but think of it as this. So Python has this thing that it does. So it goes first to this part. Then, depending on what this is, so it is set that, and then it goes to, and then the output is, let's say, true. Then it sets results is equal, value will be true. That's what it is. If that is false or false, then obviously this is also going to be false. That's basically what it is. And we have the result that's coming out. So that's what's happening. So it starts from within. What you can remember is you can take another number and say, let's see, assign this the value of 80, for example. And we run that, we get a 10 because 5 is greater than 2. If we turn that around and say 5 is less than 2, we get this 89, the value on the right hand side. That's basically what's happening here. So it goes from within, checks the condition, and then depending on which side of the value of if it's true, it turns to the left. If it's false, then it turns to the right. That's what you're getting here, because 5 is not less than 2, therefore it continues to the right. and so on and so forth. So I hope today's video gave you a clue as to what these expressions are, how you can use them. Until next time, keep well. Bye bye.